Joining me for his final one-on-one interview as MP for St. James North, the Honourable Edmund Hinkson. Mr. Hinkson, thank you for making time.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
Let's begin with the big news. Why have you decided to resign now?
Well, I had always said on entering politics that I would run 3 terms. That's my personal choice and my personal belief that 3 terms is sufficient enough to try to achieve, at least in the position I was in, to try to achieve what I came into politics to achieve. I believe that having given 200% of my effort, as I always do in anything I put my heart and soul into, that now is the best time to go. As you are well aware, I have been at the center of the disabilities legislative reform and national policy, which of course both have been passed in this Parliament within the last few months. That is, perhaps if there was one initiative or policy that I came into politics to try to achieve, if there was one sector of our society that I came into politics to try to make their lives better, everyone knows it's persons with disabilities. And that has been my lifelong interest. When I was an opposition MP in 2016, I laid a private member's resolution calling on the then government to debate rights of persons with disabilities legislation. That was ignored for their whole term, never came up. We have achieved that as a government. In terms of my constituency, of course, I am extremely proud to have, through my foundation, of which I am patron, the Clarkson Foundation Inc., which was established for the sole purpose of assisting people in St. James North, to have carried out every other year life and work skills programs, and last year combining that with parent education programs. Through these means, of course, hundreds of young persons have had the opportunity to better their life and work skills. Concepts that aren't naturally taught in our academic and traditional education system. Increasing your self-esteem, giving your self-confidence, letting you know how to teamwork, that there's nothing that great that will be achieved by yourself in terms of conflict resolution, critical thinking. And then, of course, like I said, parent education last year in all aspects. And like I said, we've had hundreds of graduates, and the record speaks for itself. Within 3 months, 75% of those graduates were able to find sustainable employment or to be able to employ themselves in each and every one of the 6 programs that we had. We didn't have it during COVID, 2 years, of course, but every other year outside of that, we had that program. You know, you will never reach perfection in terms of what you want to do as a parliamentary rep for your constituency. That is the truth. You will never. There will always be aspects that you may not have been able to achieve. But I think that in the 12 years, just over 12, we have been able to do a tremendous amount. It's true, in the first 5 years, 3 months, I was an opposition MP, and nothing really was done at governmental level. That's the truth. Leading cabinet minister under the last government told me in this parliament that the Democratic Labour Party government was not going to do anything for St. James North. So I could write as many letters to as many government ministers as I wanted to do. Nothing was going to be done. That's a fact. And he was correct. Nothing was done. No roads were repaired, not one, in my time as opposition MP. Obviously, I was doing things on my own through the foundation, developing people, and that's the most important aspect, in my opinion, of being a parliamentary representation, developing your people, but also assisting in daily subsistence, which you have to do. You have to see how your people will survive in their daily living. And thousands of constituents assisted in terms of food supplies, in terms of school supplies during the summer to outfit your children for the school year starting in September, in terms of medical expenses and education. All the sports clubs assisted, all the churches, all at Christmas, given assistance, schools regularly given assistance. That's what being representation is about, the NGOs as well in the constituency. So, as I have said, political representation at the constituency level can't be a solo race. It can't be a 1500 that you're running all yourself. Can't even be a 400 you're running yourself. It's a relay race. So you run the fastest that you can for your leg, then you pass on the baton.
Was this a difficult decision for you personally?
It's a decision that you obviously give thought to. You discuss with your family as well. And as I said, it's not that I'm going home and lie down in bed. I have said that I will continue my national service. That's part of my DNA. For the last 36 years, I've been involved in national service, obviously first at the non-governmental level and through service organizations, the Lions Clubs of Barbados, of which I led, director of the National Advisory Committee of the Salvation Army, St. John's Ambulance of Barbados, and obviously the Council for the Disabled and Association for the Blind and Deaf. And at first, working with people with disabilities at informal level, not being a member of any council, director of any council for the disabled. And, as I said, I'll be there. I'm available for further national service, but certainly I'll continue my work with people with disabilities. Once there is breath in my body, you know that I will continue working with people with disabilities. And I joined Barbados. I stated that publicly on many occasions, just after last election. And I think we could all accept that parent education is one of the challenges that we face as a society. I would have addressed Parados's annual general meeting last month, and I will work with Parados in terms of education of parents and giving them my experience. Now, would be as a former member of parliament, obviously as a father of 2 adult children. And clearly I will have the opportunity to now work at the national level in that sphere as well.
You've served as Minister of Home Affairs. Tell me about your time in that ministry.
As government, I came in, as you know, Home Affairs Minister, and we had immigration reform, especially. I worked, that took up most of my time, the immigration department. And think we started the process whereby immigration is now accepted as easily one of the best departments in terms of efficiency in this country and customer service. Minister Abrams has continued where we started off, where I started off. But when I became minister, there were some serious fundamental flaws in terms of immigration and what they required for let's say an example, for citizenship of Barbados, which was a humbug. And, we got rid of all of that.
Looking back at your time in Parliament, what would you say are your proudest achievements?
The hallmark and what's most satisfactory is the disabilities legislation, of which I was centre of. And, I commend and will on the floor of Parliament commend the Cabinet of Barbados for agreeing, and Prime Minister especially, and Minister Humphrey, for the Minister, of course, the Line Minister, for it, for what we have been able to achieve. That many people felt we couldn't achieve it. Many people with disabilities, when we started out, told me, Eddie, Mr. Hinkson, man, you just talking like all the rest. You're not gonna do anything. After we passed the legislation and national policy, they came and said, boy, you all have done it. Eternally grateful.
Were there any decisions or moments that you regret or wish you handled differently during your tenure?
Look, I have no regrets in terms of first getting into elective politics. I believe that it is the highest form of representation that you can have. This is the highest forum in the land. From the time I was a teenager, I said that if given the opportunity, I will try to get in Parliament. And I suppose that I tailored my life there in terms of becoming a lawyer and everything else. And, the non-governmental organizations and service organizations I served in to prepare myself for that. My family background would have assisted in that decision too. I'm the fourth member of my family to be elected Parliament of Barbados. I don't think there are many persons who can say so. The lady whose photo is out there, Dame Ermyborn, is my father's first cousin, therefore my second cousin. Her father before her, my dad, my great uncle. And of course, the most honorable Liz Thompson is my second cousin. And Liz and I, as I always say, grew up in a family that we understood that you had to, given the opportunity, make a contribution, given the opportunities that we had in terms of education, to contribute and try to make life better for our people. So look, you could reflect and say maybe one or two things you might have done differently. I don't know. I would have to so reflect. I am certainly grateful to have been given the opportunity by the people of St. James North to serve in this Parliament, to be given the opportunity of the Barbados Labour Party, of which I've been a member for 32 years, to serve at this level. And the opportunity by the Prime Minister of Barbados to serve in her cabinet for 26 months. When your constituents elect you, they elect you as a parliamentary representative. They don't elect you to be a minister. That's the Prime Minister's prerogative. Of course, I'm thankful to the Lord Almighty for giving me strength, and to my family. My wife married me, I suppose, knowing that I was involved in national service, but 2 children, because politics affects your family life. And clearly when the opportunity arose for St. James North, and I would have asked my children, are you willing to sacrifice your dad for 3 terms, to the people of St. James North, people of Barbados? If either of the 2 of them had said no, probably would have not gone in. Both of them have, agreed. Most young people your age, Crystal, know my daughter and know that she is a personality herself, and so certainly no problem. And my son, he's been out the country essentially throughout my political career, but obviously very concerned, about what happens. So no regrets on anything. No use looking back and saying you would have done X or Y differently. It is what it is. I look forward to my future. As you know, I'm an attorney at law for 40 years, senior counsel now. So the immediate future would be to continue my law practice, to assist in any way in terms of the implementation of the disabilities legislation or national policy that called on in terms of advice based on my experience, to help in terms of parent education. And I've made myself available to the Prime Minister, the government of Barbados, the cabinet, whoever, for whatever other role I might seem to be fit or qualified to do.
Speaking of what's next, I have heard talk of a diplomatic posting in your future. Can you confirm?
That's not for me to confirm, ma'am. I've told you all, when you all call in February on that you well know that there's only one person in Barbados with the constitutional authority to make that determination. So that's not my call. What I can tell you, of course, is after I was no longer a minister, I represented Barbados, as you know, the African, Caribbean, Pacific, European Economic the European Union parliamentary assemblies, and I traveled all Europe, Africa, representing Barbados, obviously making contacts, seeing how things work at the diplomatic level. Would have been to the UN twice last year, representing Barbados on disabilities and helping with the Cybercrime Convention, led Barbados delegation to China last year, August. I'm a worldly person.
Coming up, we're talking about his potential successor in St. James North. It is well known that you've been working with Chad Blackman. Would it be fair to say he has your support to succeed you?
Well, you all know that very well. I mean, in December, I publicly endorsed him in a situation where I felt it was time to do that at his Christmas event. Chad has been walking with me since March last year. As you know, he returned, I think it was January, from Geneva. And a lot of people don't know this. I approached Chad first last general election at one of our mass meetings and told Chad, this is the last time I will be contesting. Those of us in Parliament believe that by next general elections, you should be a candidate. I believe that you should offer yourself. I'm offering St. James North seat to you if you are willing. Your grandfather, Burton Hines, was Member of Parliament for 20 years, almost 18 years, for St. Peter. 1/5 of St. James North is in the parish of St. Peter. So you have an advantage as a start. Think about it.
What is it that you see in Mr. Blackman that causes you to support him?
I think what is it that most people see in Mr. Blackman? Mr. Blackman has, as you know, served as CARICOM ambassador when he was a young man, CARICOM ambassador of Barbados. And then, of course, he was our representative, permanent representative in Geneva, many of the UN agencies out there, and he was our representative to many countries, I think about 9 in Europe. Then, of course, he went on to be legal advisor to the head of the, not legal advisor, advisor to the International Labour Organization chief. He's come back here, of course, he's held an economic ministry and now a social ministry. So he's well qualified. And obviously his people skills, I've seen how he operates among persons, and certainly I had absolutely no problem. As I said way back in January 2022, I approached him on this issue.
Any advice that you'd offer to your successor?
Keep with people. Politics is about people. And there's simple things sometimes. Look, you can't do everything for everybody, but that's impossible. So there will be people who will say that they're dissatisfied. That goes with the territory. But you touch people in one way or another. I mean, look, everybody knows I called all my constituents for their birthdays. And I was pleased. I could recite so many stories on that issue. I will call some people, and their own mothers forgot that today is their birthday, the people who born them. Sometimes their own spouses. One time, a husband told me, oh, no, you can't speak to my wife yet. Well, I forgot today is her birthday. I will tell her in the next half hour that you called. I have to now tell her happy birthday. There was a Saturday when somebody called me and said, Mr. Hinkson, I beg you, call this person. We there to take her out to brunch, and she there sitting downside of her phone, says she's not leaving home till she receives Mr. Hinkson's birthday call. She's not leaving home. Call her there for me. We here ready to take her out. Those kind of, it might seem simple, but those kind of things matter to people. Because I use the opportunity to, as well, to ask about your mother. How your mother doing? She was in hospital 6 months ago. She fully recovered. How is your son that going to XY school? How they getting through? They're doing CHCs this year. They're ready. So it's about people.
As Edmund Hinkson closes this chapter of public service, his reflections speak to a life dedicated to duty, principle, and people. His legacy is perhaps best measured not in his own words, but in the voices of those who served alongside him. Prime Minister Amor Mottley and fellow members of Parliament shared their personal reflections on Edmund Hinkson's impact on his final day in Parliament as MP for St. James North.
Today's sitting brings to an end 12 years of exemplary parliamentary service on the part of the Honourable Member for St. James North. Mr. Speaker, it is significant because I have known the member for some time, probably since I was a teenager, but in all of the years that I've known him, he has always had a passion for representational politics and for the Barbados Labour Party, which he has served with distinction. But it wasn't simply in that area that his service has been restricted. The truth is that anyone who knows this honourable member knows that you could as easily have seen him from a very young man wearing the waistcoat of the Lions and standing up, doing duty wherever the Lions Club could be found in this honourable country. Similarly, you would have seen him work with the Salvation Army. You would have seen him work with the St. John's Ambulance Brigade. But the one that perhaps he is most well known for across this entire country is his work with the Council for the Disabled. And when the history of this young nation is written, the name of the honourable member will stand tall with respect to the contribution which he has made to post-independence Barbados for the people who themselves could not represent their interests and act in their own deliberate interests. Those who, by reason of either physical or mental disability, would have needed the voice and passion of persons like the honourable member. Many persons may not know that his sister is deaf-mute and that Eddie has carried that as his responsibility. The honourable member has carried that as his responsibility in his life, and that speaks volumes to his character, and we have all noticed it to the point where it was our solemn duty to ensure that in the last year, his report as chairman of the Commission on the Council of the Disabled was taken by this honourable chamber and formally approved. And then the legislation ensuing therefrom was equally the subject of the attention of this honourable chamber and passed both houses such that it now represents the laws of this honour of this country. I believe, sir, that that singular set of work, body of work, really stands tall across the Commonwealth Caribbean and distinguishes Barbados as a country that sees people, hears people, and feels people. And I'm proud to have been the one leading the government at this point in time where an honourable member could have so acquitted himself to move, even after he was outside of the cabinet, to move his colleagues to the point where this became our passion as well. Sir, I want to say thank you. Thank you as leader of the Barbados Labour Party. Thank you as Prime Minister. Thank you as a friend. Thank you, I'm almost saying, as a pseudo-constituent, because even though I do not vote in St. James North, I have had the good fortune of spending significant amounts of time in my life in St. James North. And I am therefore aware of the manner and the high regard in which he is held by those, particularly in the Western Lower Carlton area, where I have a natural affinity with those down there. With those few words on this motion for the adjournment, I say to the member for St. James North, well done, well done.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak on the adjournment as well. Mr. Speaker, it's my pleasure and my privilege to share some brief recollections of the Honourable Member for St. James North. The Honourable Member for St. James North held the portfolio of Minister of Home Affairs. I then followed him into that portfolio. And seamlessly, on my first day in office, the Honourable Member took the opportunity to call me to say these are the things I had been working on. These are the hiccups we may have experienced. This is where I think we can go if you need any help at all, that you could call on me. I came in, sir, and found the wicket laid for the child justice legislation. A lot of work had been done by the Honourable Member and some of the international agencies in crafting this legislation and formulating the policy. I came in and found significant work done by the Honourable Member in rejuvenating the immigration department to the point where I was able to slip in, carry on the work, make some input of my own, but equally reach back out to the Honourable Member at any point in time that I needed assistance or clarification or guidance. And that was genuinely and readily provided. Sometimes the Honourable Member did not even wait for me to reach out. The Honourable Member would see something or a thought would occur to him and he would call and say, Wilfred, sir, he has been a father to those who needed a father. He's been a brother to those who needed a brother. He's been a friend to those who needed a friend.
I always say that people leave politics either because they resign or because they lose a seat. They go contest an election and they leave active politics. It is a huge step for persons to be able to feel as though they have accomplished what they came to public life to do and to be able to leave. I certainly have not seen a lot of people do this. I think the Honourable Member for St. George North, the former representative, would have done it certainly during my time, but it is not the norm. And it does take and speak to the character of the individual when they can remove themselves from active politics and go on to something else and still continue to serve in another capacity, but also to give way for others, whether younger or otherwise, to be able to step up to the plate to do that. And I do honestly think that, Honourable Member, your character certainly has risen in my eyes because you have given way to another young, bright man who is soon going to represent the constituency of St. James North. And we look forward certainly to the passing of that baton. You have laid the way for the foundation for him to be able to lift off and to continue to represent proudly the Barbados Labour Party. And we look forward to a lot of the support that certainly persons have given to you being transferred onto the next representative for the area. So, Mr. Speaker, with those few words, I thank his wife, his children for standing by his side. It is never easy. I'm sure the long hours and the long nights that this politics often takes away from families, but you have stood by his side. And again, we thank you as well for the support that you have given the Honourable Member for St. James North. So with those few words, Mr. Speaker, congratulations, Eddie, and all the best.
His legacy will reflect a life of service. Thank you for joining us.